Hi, my name is Landen. I'm an agronomy sales rep at French location. Today I want to talk to you about spider mites. How do we look for them? How do we get rid of them? And what is our threshold? Uh, the reason why we're more concerned about spider mites at this point is because we're in a drought year, and spider mites are much more apt to show up in a drought or in drought conditions than they are when it's a wet year. So first of all, spider mites are very, very small invertebrates. They're actually, the mite family is more closely related to spiders than it is to insects. So they're technically, um, not an insect. They have 8 legs and they're very, very small. That mite family, things are typically very small. This is about, two-spotted spider mite is about half the size, at the largest, half the size of the smallest aphid nymph that you're going to find. So searching for them is kind of tough with the naked eye. Typically you're looking for injury symptoms on the lower part of the plant. When you get under the canopy, in about this area of the plant, you're looking for some stifling and injury symptoms. That's more of that stifling is kind of a copper tone look to it, or a yellowing of the leaves. And usually we're looking at a field from the edges, because spider mites tend to overwinter, or they overwinter as eggs, and then they tend to infest areas of permanent vegetation like trees or alfalfa, grass. And then when those areas are, getting drier, or if they've been freshly mowed or something like that, that's when they start to move into soybeans. And when soybeans are in a drought condition, it's it's something that attracts the spider mites. They like that dried drought symptoms on soybeans. So they'll move from the edge of the fields inward, and they're going to start from the bottom of the plant and move their way up. When you're scouting for it, start on the edge of the field, look for those symptoms. If you find it, you walk in towards the middle of the field a little bit more, 30-40 yards, and look for those symptoms again. Once you start getting damage in your upper canopy, then that's when you get permanent yield reduction. And the threshold isn't necessarily a count of organisms on the plant. It is a injury. What does your injury look like? So the threshold would be any stifling on the upper canopy. Products that you're going to use to control that would be something with copyrifos, or like a Lorsban type product. Pyrethroids are typically not a good system to use, because products like Warrior or Lambda, they will actually flare a population, and you'll end up with twofold more what you had at the beginning. So usually stay away from pyrethroids unless it's bifenthrin. Bifenthrin has very good control, and it actually will have some residual on the leaves. So timing to spray it, you're going to be, anytime right now is still going to be time to spray. I usually tell my guys, once your beans are filled in the pods, that's probably when it's time to, maybe the population of spider mites isn't going to affect the yield anymore. But at this point, when we have pods that are just filled with tiny little soybeans, it's definitely a good time to go out there and spray it. So, thank you.